Hello, this is Amy Savage Flores here in Northern California, and this is my yearly submission for the Art2Ride Associate Trainer Program. Here I am working with Oreo, a 16-year-old Arabian Quarter Horse gelding who is owned by my colleague and friend Emily Sequeira. Oreo is one of our lesson horses. He has been learning Art2Ride for about 2 years. He is ridden by students of all ages and levels. He is a very special guy and an integral part of our lesson program. Emily bought Oreo about 2 years ago. Prior to that, he was a Western pleasure show horse and lesson horse. We have had quite a journey with Oreo's health as he has suffered from ulcers. He is a cribber, so that isn't helpful. We have treated him with everything from ulcer guard, sucralfate, aloe juice, herbs, etc. And they just keep coming back. He is free fed, so he has access to hay 24 hours a day, and he gets to graze on fresh grass several hours per day. He is like another horse when he is on his treatment for ulcers. When they come back, he is grumpy, very nippy, and resistant to stretch or go forward. In this video, he was doing really well, and I think he was on treatment for his ulcers, so he was being a really good boy. But coming from a Western pleasure background, our biggest struggle has been keeping him forward enough in his gaits. When he moves forward, he drops right down into a stretch. The dressage whip has been one of our best tools for getting that forward activity. As a lesson horse, he often ignores the rider's leg, so the dressage whip is really what helps keep him going. So here you'll see him he gets a little bit annoyed with me when I do tap him with the whip, but then he does go forward and give me a nice stretch. So sometimes we got to use those tools to help them understand what we want. And this is a really good activity for him. You know, a lot of times he wants to stay a lot more sluggish in the walk. I think the walk is one of his hardest gaits to keep him active, and actually most horses, it's hard to stay active and stretch at the walk. A horse would rather start trotting rather than be active and engage. So I was very happy with his effort in this work in hand session that I did. So here on the lunge, again, it's very, very difficult to keep him forward in the walk. You can see a big difference in his walk here from where I was nice and close to him and able to touch him with the dressage whip. So you see me trying to send him with the whip, the lunge whip here, and it's just not quite forward enough. And I do stay pretty close to him so that I can try to keep him forward and active. But you can see that I'm not really accomplishing the walk that I just had in the work in hand. So you're going to see that I decide to forget it and just start trotting, see if I can help him improve that walk by creating activity at the trot. So here he goes, you know, he's kind of in lesson horse mode, just kind of plodding along here. So you will see that I am encouraging him with the whip to try to go forward, walking with him, trying to get him to move more forward. You see that I stay pretty close to him, not keeping him out too far away from me so that I can hopefully get him more forward. But again, you know, he's giving me a little bit more, but not quite enough that I know that he can give. So instead of nagging at him, you'll see here pretty quickly, I decide to go ahead and send him up to the canter. I think I asked for it in a moment here. The trot is getting a little better as we go here. There was a nice stretch there. Yeah. So he's giving me a little more activity, and here I go, sending him up to the canter. See if I can just use the canter to help create some forward. And he doesn't stretch that great on the canter, but he does try a little bit. But mostly right now I'm just using it to help create the forward in the trot. So here you can see him swinging and pushing a little better after that canter. Kind of helps loosen him up and help him think about going forward. And then you'll see I just follow wherever his head is with my lunge line. So if his head comes up, I raise my hand so that I can keep the contact. If he comes down, I can lower my hand to follow him. And I saw some improvement in that trot, so I went ahead and brought him back down to the walk. And here you see right away, he wanted to be slow, and I sent him forward. He got a little more activity, but he's not quite giving me the same stretch that I was able to get from him on the work in hand. So you see I get closer to him, see if I can help influence him a little bit better. Sending him forward, staying closer. He says, "Oh, you want me to trot?" And that's okay. I just bring him back down to the walk. Get a little closer, see if I can get more activity. And so I'm getting a little more activity, but you can tell he's kind of annoyed at me sending him, and so we're not getting the forward and the stretch. So, you know, we just work on the pieces that we have, work what we have, and keep working our way at trying to get forward and stretching. So little by little, he will figure it out. So I decided to just go ahead and change directions. And normally when I'd be doing all this stuff near his face, when his ulcers are really bothering him, he gets very mouthy and will try to bite me and grab the rope. But you see here that he's being a really good boy and staying quiet. Go ahead and send him out on the circle this direction. This direction, he has a little more trouble staying out on the end of my line. So you'll see sometimes I will send the whip at his shoulder because he doesn't want to stay at the very edge of my lunge line. And when a horse does that, it makes it hard to ask for the stretch or to help them find their balance to be able to stretch and stay engaged. So it's really important to make sure that you ask your horse to stay out on the circle. So I do this by just widening my hand in front of me so that I'm kind of giving him a place to go for the stretch and then sending him out with the whip. And that's how I'm accomplishing asking him to move out on the circle. Then again, the walk work is just really difficult for this horse. It ends up getting better after we've done some forward work. So I'm not going to stress too much about it. I go ahead and just send him forward to the trot. The trot was not looking very great, so I went ahead and just sent him up to the canter. Remember, our goal is to improve through the session. So if this horse needs to just go forward, create that activity, Then I can bring him back down. You see that his trot looks a lot looser and more forward. And then I'm able to get a better stretch from him. There, he's slowing down a little bit. It's kind of going in and out of it. And you can see how sometimes I kind of lose the contact with the line, and that's because he's not wanting to stay at the edge of my lunge line. So it's very hard to influence them when they're not staying out on that circle. So I just do my best to follow wherever his head is and keep on sending him out with my whip. So I can use the whip towards his shoulder or kind of where the saddle is to send him to the edge of my circle. I think he just decided he was going to canter there. I was asking him to move out and he went forward, so I just kind of went with it and then brought him back down to the trot. This direction is proving to be harder for him. I think he was giving me a much better stretch the other way, so just kind of working my way through it, seeing how I can help him figure out where to put his body, how I can help him stay active and stretching this direction. It's improving as we go. And then right back down to that slow little walk. So I get closer to him and say, actually, buddy, you got to stay more forward and active. So I get closer to him, send him forward. His head is up, so I'm following up with my hand. And then you see me getting after him a little bit with that whip to see if I can create more activity. I get much better results with him at the walk in hand or when he's ridden. So the lunging walk work is really a hard thing for him, and so that's something we want to keep improving on. But if we can get better work at the work in hand and ridden, then we just move on and go to that. So under saddle, this boy has a tendency to want to go behind the vertical. That is how he was ridden for most of his life. So the moment you take contact on the reins, he kind of curls up a bit. So when he does this, I make sure to keep the contact so he doesn't think he is getting rewarded for doing that. The biggest mistake people make with horses that go behind the vertical is to release their hands to try to encourage their horse to go forward. But that release actually is showing them that if they do that, they are getting away from what you're asking them to do. So they learn pretty quickly, if you do that if they go behind the vertical, you'll leave them alone. So it's important to make sure that you keep that contact, and then he will find a release when he stretches down and out. So here he has decided to stretch down and out. I was losing him a bit, so you see I lifted my hands and followed him. Again, here he goes. He stretches down and out. Much, much better. Again, going behind the vertical a little bit there for tiny moments, but then look at that walk. That's beautiful. Really moving forward and swinging. You can really find that they're relaxed when you see their head bobble a little bit, kind of at their poll. Yeah, so he's reaching a lot further down in his stretch here. That's good. lost him a little bit. I just followed where he went, and then he stretched all the way back down again. Yep. So it's just little adjustments as you go. So finding that nice rhythm, and then as you start to lose them, you just follow and make those little adjustments until they stretch back out and find that sweet spot again. So here at the trot, he is going a little bit slow here to start off and wanting to curl up behind the vertical. So I hold the contact and send him forward until he finds the stretch. So because he's going behind the vertical, I don't release. I just lightly hold that contact. You can see that I'm encouraging to go forward. It's not quite found it yet, so I'm just working my way through it to help him find his way. There he goes a little better. Slowly getting there. There he goes. Yeah, he is finding little moments where he's stretching a little bit further down. And it really just comes to finding that activity. So he improved there, and so I went ahead and brought him back down to the walk. Go ahead and change directions here. You can see the moments where he starts reaching further down, really opening up his back and swinging through his hip. Lovely, lovely there. Had to correct him there a little bit through the turn. Just continue to keep the contact. So I raise my hands to keep the contact. Oh, my video person got distracted by someone here at the gate. But what I did through the corner was just hold the contact. And then we'll see here he stretched back down. So I follow. And here we go up to the trot. He comes up, but I just follow with my hand. Then I'm going to keep a light contact as I encourage the forward. And just wait until he finds that relaxation and stretch. There he goes. Starting to get better here. Lost him a little bit, so you can see I raised my hand. When I raise my hand, you see him go a little bit behind the vertical there, but I don't release. I wait until he decides to try to reach down and out instead. It's a little better. Still working away at it. Not quite where I want him to be. Oh, he tripped a little bit there. I go ahead and bring him back down to the walk to see if I can get a better stretch here at the walk. And there he goes, reaching a bit further down. Encouraging him to keep active in that walk. I can use an alternating leg with the sway of his barrel to encourage a bigger step. And then of course the lunge whip really comes in handy for this boy who like I said before, is a lesson horse and gets a little bit annoyed by people who are learning that just keep nagging him with their leg. I'd like to see him poke his nose out a bit more. There he goes. He did for a moment there. Back up to some trot work. Follow wherever his head is going. And then I'm going to add a tiny bit of canter here under saddle. I keep the contact until I feel him want to stretch out. So here he's wanting to go behind the vertical a little bit. So I just keep a wide hand, keep that light contact until I feel him want to stretch a little bit out. So there, he gave me a little bit better stretch. And so I go ahead and trot. And then bring him back down to the walk. Let's see how, there he goes. See how he's really loosening up through there now. Good there. Really nice there. So the canter's not perfect. He's still wanting to go behind the vertical, but I'm just adding pieces in there to see if I can help him. You know, all these steps are helping him to loosen up and improve upon his other gaits. So I just played with it a little bit. I didn't do a ton of cantering. At that last little piece at the canter, he did try to stretch just a tiny bit more out by poking his nose out. So that's an improvement. Remember, our goal is always to just find some improvement. And then bring him to the trot this way. He's wanting to curl up a bit again. So I just follow where he is, ask for that stretch again. And then I go ahead and ask him for the canter this way. See what he gives us. So I'm just keeping a wide hand and a light contact to encourage him to stretch. Let's see. There he goes, a little bit better. I bring him back down to the trot. You know, he gave me a couple strides where he's actively trying to reach out and stretch out with that nose. So I take it. He's nice and forward at the trot here. See if we can get his nose to poke out a bit. Good. I really, I liked how forward he was. And again, this horse is a horse that was ridden very slow in that Western Pleasure, really ridden behind the vertical. So these are huge, huge improvements for him. Of course, it's not perfect, but we just keep on working every day to help him improve. I'm very happy with his progress. So here at the walk, I just finish up seeing how much stretch he could give, and he was a super good boy. Very happy with him, and I get off. Thank you for watching my video. Wishing you